Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. Before we get started with this episode, just to say thank you so much for downloading and all the support you've given. Also as well, please pass on the word that the podcast is now available on YouTube, which means you get a static image, but you also get the full audio and with subtitles as well, which work about 95% of the time accurately. So please pass on the word with your friends, because I do realise that some people can't quite get the concept of what a podcast is and how it works through the apps. So YouTube, everybody knows how to use that. Anyway, this week I chat with Nigel Ellacott about him being a dame, his rise to becoming one of the biggest and most popular dames in the UK, and his wonderful website, It's Behind You. So please sit back, have a listen, and share with your friends as well. The latest Panto podcast. My guest today is the legend behind the wonderful website, Dame Creation, and well, how else can I call you really? It's
cheap artist,
Nigel Ellacott. We've been chatting away for ages before I've hit the record button.
We're up for nothing.
We're going to include some of it though, some sneaky bits in later.
Okay.
On, so. When did you first know then that you wanted to be involved in pantomime?
Easy peasy. My brother ran the Grand Theatre in Swansea. He and John Chilvers ran it and put on pantomimes, and in those days they ran till, I think, I'm not joking when I say Easter. I mean literally they would go on till Easter. Certainly St David's Day we were doing pantos. So as a kid, if I was very good, because my brother's my older brother, I was able to go backstage and watch what was going on, and especially rehearsals. And I can remember that they used to rehearse in Swansea in the bar. Move a few stools, and I can remember that all the comics wore their coats and their hats. They didn't take them off. So presumably we're in the era of no central heating. And they used to get together in corners and go, "Oh, do you want to do the Busy Bee?" And I'd do, "Oh, right, okay, you can do Tree of Truth." Well, what? And they kind of talk and not do it, and that was the end of it. And John's scripts would have lots of TBA written in them, to be arranged, and that was left to the comics. So as a kid, I just sort of thought, oh, this is fascinating. And another reason is, as a teenager growing up, we had a very amazing dame at Swansea called Freddie Lees. And Freddie did rep, and he also did panto. And Freddie was the most amazing, traditional, almost you could believe he was descended from Dan Leno type of dame, and that was it for me. It was just watching this man who had stillness, and even as a teenager you could appreciate when everybody's running around, there's all chaos going on, there's one man standing in the middle, because in those days of course it was stand mics, you only had 3 mics on stage, no radio mics, so you stood in the middle and he just worked his face and worked his gags, and I just thought, yeah. So, thank you, Mickey Mouse. That was my watch speaking to me. It got excited. Freddie Lees is, I would say, the biggest influence in my life. And when I went to Freddie's funeral, because I knew him all my life, and he was a fabulous man, fabulous performer, he had the last laugh, because as his coffin went in and the curtains closed, this piece of loud band music struck up, and bit by bit we all looked at each other and went, oh God. The music was called Blaze Away. Good for you, Freddie. Blaze away into the crematorium. Genius. That's why I do panto.
Was there a part of you then that wanted to be that comic?
Very much so, yes, absolutely. But bearing in mind that one brother was already in the theatre, my parents weren't awfully keen on another one going in, so they persuaded me to do teacher training. So I did teacher training for 3 years in Carmarthen, in mid Wales, because I was born in Swansea, with no intention of ever being a teacher, and all my tutors were ex-actors, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did it. But so they wanted a safety net.
So it was always nagging in the background that I need to be on the stage.
Oh, even when I was in college, I was sneaking away and I was doing work in Cardiff. I was working. I had an agent. As long as you went to the lectures in the morning and got seen, you could jump on the train and go. No, it was always destined. I took a panto around Carmarthen, a touring panto, Dick Whittington, when I was 19. It toured all around. It was going to happen. I didn't think I'd still be doing it now, but...
And nobody was going to stop you either then?
No, they were too polite.
What was life then growing up? Because you haven't got the Welsh accent.
No, I had it taken away by a lady. I paid her.
Did you?
Yeah, my cousin Anthony Lynn, who works for Disney, has got a very broad Welsh accent, and he lives in America, and they think it's the most wonderful, gorgeous, exotic, it's Catherine Zeta-Jones's accent. At the time that I was growing up, I was not clever enough to realise that we were about to have our own Welsh television programmes. Everything was dubbed into Welsh, so if you had a cartoon from a foreign cartoon, it was dubbed into Welsh. I wish I'd persevered and spent more time on the Welsh, because my Welsh actor friends never stopped working. It's an amazing skill if you're bilingual, as we say. But no, I had my accent taken away, and I think I paid £30 to learn that it's not almond, but it's almond. That was worth 30 quid. I've never had to say it.
Until now.
Until this minute.
At school then, were you involved with much drama?
Yeah. At school, from the age of about 9 or 10, I joined, I don't want to call them amateur dramatic societies. Most of them were connected to the church. The church drama groups, the All Saints Players, and then you move around. And so if you were at 9 or 10 and had a bit announced to you, you sort of it was like the Hollywood system of being lent out to other amateur societies. So I ended up always being somebody's kid in a play. I was doing that all the time. I once found one of my diaries from when I was about 12 or 13, and I don't understand how I managed to do all that in a week. I would be, doing rehearsals for the All Saints plays. I'd be with the Swansea Youth Theatre. I'd be doing this, that and the other. It's in your blood, isn't it? The Swansea Youth Theatre was an amazing learning ground for me, and it was in Swansea at the Llewellyn Hall, which is still going. And I learnt something the other day that I hadn't realised. My brother said to me, "You remember you did some plays with Rowan?" I said, "Rowan? I don't really..." He said, "Yeah, the two Williamses. There was Rob Williams and there was Rona, the Archbishop of Canterbury." I went, "What?" "Oh, so I apparently did plays with the Archbishop of Canterbury." Right. So there you go. We both ended up wearing a frock.
Oh dear me.
Am I digressing?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. I'm sure the listeners are loving every second of this.
Oh, if it was only television.
Let you have a sit there.
Yeah, gin, lovely.
Yes, if only. If only it came out of the tap.
Yeah, well, exactly.
When you joined your pantomime companies then, what part did you ever play the comic?
No. Do you know what? I'm going to digress again. I can't find the book now. I wrote a piece for the Actors Yearbook, I think it's called. Quite a hefty piece, actually. And it was giving advice to actors in drama school about pantomime career. And I put at the very beginning of this article, if you're going to do pantomime, you have to be typecast. And there's no kidding about it, there's no beating about the bush, because the second you walk into that audition room, they will go, "That's a principal boy, that's a principal girl," etc. Funny shades when it comes to fairies, because there's a progression. Principal girls become fairies as they get older. In my era, we had a funny time when when I first started doing pantomimes, it was boys playing the part of boys. So at Swansea Grand, it was pop stars. You had Marty Wilde, you had Johnny DeLittle, people like that, Jess Conrad, the pop star boys played the boys because that's what had happened. Then there was a switch over, and Cilla Black does the Palladium and Cilla plays Principal Boy, and it all comes back into fashion again. So we got girls. So by the time I'm working for Paul Elliott around about 81, all our boys are girls. So you've got the fabulous Principal Boys. So if you're going to be auditioning for a pantomime, if you're a tall, gutsy girl with a good, strong voice, the chances are in those days you'd be a boy. If you were a petite girl with a lovely singing voice, very lyrical, you'd be a principal girl. If you were a handsome man who sings, of course you're a principal boy. An older person, the character parts, the baddie, the villain. It's tricky for drama students there because they're not really old enough. And then you get the dame. How on earth do you audition a dame? That's the tricky one, because the thing to remember is the dame is someone's mother, and drama students are not likely to come out of drama college and be instantly put in the part of somebody's mother. But it is all about being typecast, and I knew myself from about the age of 20, 21 that I was not a singer. I certainly wasn't a dancer. I didn't think I was particularly adept at standing there telling gags. What am I going to do in pantomime? I did the obvious thing. I became a goose. For 3 years. The goose in Mother Goose. Specialised. My agent, Keith Solberg, God bless him, who used to be in Brinsworth and is no longer with us, discovered that if you specialised in a specialist place like pantomime, so if you were a speciality in pantomime, you could get more money. So he would literally say to me, I've got you Belgrade Coventry, I've got you the Haymarket Leicester, and we've got really good money because you are a speciality. And that meant you are uncomfortable, in pain, and doing a job that nobody else wants to do, and being bent double inside a wire cage with a duck call stuck in your mouth. You're waggling your arms, your wings are your elbows, you've got a tail rudder to do, and you've got a crash helmet on your head, and you've got Reg Dixon singing confidentially next to you. That's why you want good money. So 3 years of Goose, followed by 2 years of Cat. But I was a very special cat. I was Puss in Boots. I stood and I talked. And then finally I got to step out of fur and feathers. And now I wear fur and feathers all the time. But as a dame.
Was it the fifth, sixth year then that you became the dame, or?
Gosh, no. I'm on my 45th year of doing pantomimes. That's where you say that's not possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. It's good, healthy living. Of those 45, I did. I started off as Sir Gawain in The Green Knight, touring Wales with that. So I was sort of Principal Boy. I did Pirate in another touring pantomime that was like a Welsh pirate story called Madam Wen. It was about a lady pirate. So I did all bits and pieces. Then I did my 3 geese, about 2 cats, and then we get to Sister, because I was way too young. I couldn't have been a dame. So Ugly Sister is the way to go, because you don't have to be somebody's mother. You can be Cinderella's sister. So yeah, that's what it happened. That was the order of things, the pecking order, as we say when you play Goose.
And dame for you, or sorry, sister.
Yeah.
For you, did the shoes feel better than wanting to become the dame?
I actually honestly never wanted to be the dame, because I honestly thought I was not old enough. I mean, I'm trying to think of what age Peter and I played Sister. We were the same age, so 80, 81. Got to do maths here. But we're about 26 or something. We toured a lot during the year. This was the magic. This is what made I mean, I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but we were special because we had a rapport. That rapport was not just because we did Panto every year. We toured all year round. We did kids shows. We did Pinocchio, Wind in the Willows, Christmas Carol. He was Scrooge. I was young Scrooge always. Fox and Cat in Pinocchio for different managements. A double act. We literally worked together and shared digs together for probably 40 weeks out of 52. But neither of us wanted to be Dame. I can remember Peter once saying to me, "Oh, do you know, I'd like to have a go at Ebenezer," and he would have been a bloody good Ebenezer. And I wanted to have a go at villain, and I got the chance because I did a couple of, I did about 5, I think, pantos at Brick Lane Music Hall, which is it's for grown-ups, and I was able to play a villain, but they wanted me to be a lady villain, so that was fine. I mean, it's I'd been a sister, that's a baddie, but now you're progressing to really bad. We never tried to kill anybody as sisters. We used to just lock them in a cupboard.
Oh,
that was about it.
What was the premise then? To want to kill people?
Well, poisoned apples for starters.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Spinning wheels. I was forever trying to put that poor girl's finger on it. Like, go on, run. Thinking, you don't know how to spin this, nor do I. Why isn't there any thread in this? Oh, never mind. So I did not want to become a Dame. It was not something that I even contemplated, because Dame was somebody's mother, and if you remember, I was a goose with Reg Dixon. At that point, Reg Dixon, who your listeners probably have never heard of, Reg was a big star in the 1950s, and he was a big, huge radio star, and he was big enough to when George Formby was doing a big musical at the Palace Theatre, Zip Goes a Million. When he had a heart attack, the next biggest name to bring in was Reg Dixon, and he had a song called Confidentially, and Reg was probably in his 70s playing Mother Goose, and I was a very young goose, and to me that was the perfect Dame, because he looked like he could be somebody's mum or gran, and I felt no, I wasn't going to play Dame. And then lo and behold, things catch you out of the blue. Peter died 2009, an absolute total devastating shock. He had been ill, there was no past history and he just went like that. And I can remember sitting in a restaurant with Michael Harrison, and Michael saying, "So now, what do you want to do? Do you want to play sister? Because we can put..." And I said, and I hadn't thought about it. I just said, no, it will never be the same. It will never feel right. I can never work with somebody else, because I'll constantly be saying to them, "Oh, Peter used to do it like that," or "Can you not stand there because that I'm used to being on this side?" And 28 years, you can't. I didn't want to do that, and so Michael said to me, "Well, okay, we'll go and do Dame." And I said something which was quite scary, I suppose. I said, "Do you mind if I don't? Do you mind if I go away quietly and do a Dame and you come and see it?" And he went, "Yeah, fine." So, of course, knocking on my brother's door, Kenneth Moore Theatre. "How do you fancy me doing Dame?" "Yeah, fine." And I was able to quietly do it, build up the costumes, build up the business, work it out. Michael came along. I suppose he must have thought it was all right, because 10 years down the line I'm still playing Dame for them. So yeah, that's how it happened. It wasn't I really want to be Dame. To me, Dame's always somebody's mother.
Is there much of your own mother in your Dame?
Ooh, Mr. Freud. No.
That's a complete compliment.
No. There's a lot of Freddie Lees in my Dame. There's little bits of Roy Barraclough. There's let's face it, we all we all pick a mix, don't we? From the people that we admire, the people that we all pick a mix. So my dame, somebody's, I don't know who it was. I want to say, I have to name drop every time I do this now. It's either going to be Shobna Galati, or it might be Ashley Butler, Ashley and Pudsey and Sally, of course, who said to me, she's very sharp, your dame, isn't she? She's very sort of knowing. And I said, I've never thought about it. Is it? And she said, yeah, she's nobody's fool. I'm like, oh, okay. So apparently that's my dame is nobody's fool. I don't know. I've never seen it, so.
I'll ask you about the toy theatres as well, or the Pollocks. Did you do all the Pollocks?
Yeah, Pollocks. And of course I did. Out there I've got something. Peter Baldwin.
Yes.
Gave me and Peter matching. I mean, what a prezi. He found 2 matching 1880s posters, originals, that were a special benefit put on for Some Ugly Sisters. I mean, and we used to go and spend a lot of time with Peter at the shop and Pollocks, and Peter Robbins, God bless him, when he died it was all very, very, it was traumatic. It was so traumatic. I was completely just not taking it in. His brother had just lost their mother. So Peter was at the reading of the will for his mother when he had a heart attack. So the poor brother is now burying his mother and his brother. And at some point, I had a phone call, and it was his brother, and he said, "Is there anything you want of Peter's? Is there anything you like? Anything you want?" And I said, No, it's fine. It's honestly. I said, "Oh yeah. There's a brand new. He bought 2 months ago. He bought a brand new laptop. Give it to your son because you don't want it." He said, "But I'm asking you because everything's going to go in a skip." I went, "Everything?" He said, "Yeah. We're just going to, I said, I've just cleared the lot into skips." I said, and at the time I said, "No, there's nothing I want or nothing." And it was about 3 or 4 weeks later I suddenly went, oh shit, Peter had an original Pollocks, a Georgian Pollocks, that we bought in, I forget when we were touring in the 70s, and it's the real deal. And I just thought, oh shit, of all the things, it's survived from like 1860 and it's gone into a skip in Brixton. It's horrible, but that's how it went. Everything went, the lot. But your brain doesn't work. You don't go, oh,
You'd need another room, wouldn't you?
I kept Peter's costumes intact and unopened until 4 weeks ago, and he died 10 years ago. So I just couldn't bring myself to do anything about it. So this massive thing, But Andrew said we've got to do something about it. So I've given a lot away to, I don't know if you know Lee Redwood.
Yes.
Because when Lee was a little boy, when he was about 9, he came to see Peter and me in Panto, and his parents brought him backstage and he said he was going to be in Pantomime, a little bow tie, and then he came again the following year at 10, 11. Lee has been to see me every single year of his life. No matter where I am, if I'm in Plymouth, if I'm in Llandudno, he comes. And I just thought, if there's the one person that should have some of Peter's stuff, it's him. Bloody hell, I think he idolised Peter, and that's why when I look at him on stage I think, oh yeah, you've got Peter's makeup. And so I unzipped the thing, and so Lee's got most of it, and then I've taken one piece which I'm going to wear this year. So, but the trouble is Peter was a big lad and I'm not. So there's a lot of.
How did you first get to meet Peter then?
At the Kensmore Theatre, Ilford. Deliberately put together by. I wanted to do Cinderella because I'd been writing the pantos and putting them on here, and I personally wanted to be in this one. So I went for a partner, and I asked a guy called Roy Keane if he would like to be my partner. We met in a cafe in London. I said, "Would you like to be my ugly sister?" "Oh no." "Oh, oh no, oh, no, oh, I left. I go like, oh. And Barry Stacey, my agent, lived above the cafe, so I went up and I said to Barry, and he went, oh, don't worry about it, daughter, I'll say it. So I went on a lager commercial, and this guy Peter was there, and Peter said, Barry says I've got to say hello, I did Ugly Sister last year. I went, oh right. The commercial went on from 10 until 11 at night, and that was it. By the time 11 had come, we sorted everything out. 28 years later, you
gelled
instantly, and we had all day to do it in. Barry was a genius. And we should have paid a woman called Anne Zahl, an agent, we should have paid her commission for 26 years, because after the first 2 years, we did Ilford, then the following year, so what we did was we put all our money together at the end of Ilford into an envelope, and I said, we're not touching this, we're going to buy costumes and wigs with it, right? And we did. Along came Anne Zahl, and she said to me, have you heard of Paul Elliott? And we went, yes. She said, he wants to see you. I went, what? Paul Elliott wants to see us. And she said, well, no, actually, I want you to see Paul Elliott. He doesn't know you from Adam. But he's looking for sisters, and I need to do him a favour. And I said, okay. So we went along, we went in there, we took our pictures with us, Paul wasn't interested. We stood there after about 5 minutes, he said, are you at camp? Peter went, beg your pardon. He went, you camp on stage. Camp on stage. I went, I don't think so. Oh, that's right. That was that. He sends us in to see Brian Hewitt-Jones, who was camp, and proceeded to sing and dance, and then we're getting really embarrassed. And we left and we got the job. So I said to Anne, we've got the job. And she said, yes, oh, thank you for that, because it's done me a favour. And I said, so will you write the commission? She said, oh, no, dear. Oh, no, I'm not taking commission off you. No, that was a favour. To Paul. I went, oh, you don't want commission? She said, oh, no, dear, no, I don't handle variety. Another slap in the face. What? 26 years of not paying commission. And I met Anne and I said, you're owed a lot of money. And she went, that's right, I don't do variety.
What was it like then, going on stage for the first time without Peter?
Weird, really, seriously weird. Not just going on stage, but being in a dressing room on my own. That was so strange, because Peter and I don't know, some of your older listeners may have seen a documentary called Pantoland, and it followed Peter and me around for quite a long time, actually. They followed us from about July until it opened at Woking, the Panto. And one of the things that seemed to delight them was that Peter and I decorated a dressing room. When we moved in, we decorated that dressing room. There was no messing about. And then when we got bored, we decorated somebody else's dressing room. It's because we did the same show for 28 years, if you think about it. We were actors known, we did our own thing. The rehearsals didn't really, they weren't taxing for us. Texts were very long, so let's decorate somebody's dressing room. Let's do a makeover. And it was so strange to go into a dressing room, put my stuff out, lay it out and go, oh, right. Then there's the banter. There's no banter. I always got the makeup took us hours. It actually took us 6 minutes, because when we did the Peter and I also, of course, toured in the Pantomime Roadshow, where originally, when we were doing it for Cadbury's, we dressed up as ladies twice a day, going in and out of schools, getting made up as a lady in the kitchens, or the toilets, or the headmaster's office. We could do it in a hurry, but we used to take hours over it, because we gossiped and bantered, and we never ran out of things to say. And there I am, it's 2009, I'm in a dressing room on my own. And that was weird. Really, really strange. But hey.
And walking out on that stage for the first time without him by your side.
Yeah, that was strange, because you have when there are two of you, you have such a confidence, and the gags bounce. Timing, apparently we had timing, I'm sure we did because we did it enough. Now you don't know, you go, it's just you. Oh, okay. So I don't know, maybe that's where my dame learnt to be a little bit sharp and assertive. You're not getting me, I'll get you first. Yeah, so no, it was strange. I still get, because of course another thing that's strange for me is every year now it's a different script. I wasn't used to having to learn a different script. We did our business, we did the same thing. The odd things change. You could change name of Australian soap star to Gladiator, kind of thing, but we always called each other dear on stage because our names changed every year. Paul, Elliot and Judas. Every year you were somebody different. Alexis and Crystal, you were Scary Spice and Baby Spice one year. The next year they'd say, oh, you're going to be Sporty Spice. So we just called each other dear. Once we'd said who we were, that bit we could remember. After that was dear. No idea who we were. Not a clue. Yeah. But it's a very... It's a learning curve. Every year there is a whole new script to learn. Last year I did my first version of... I've done Jack and the Beanstalk. I think I've done it 2 or 3 times now, and each time it's been completely different. This year I'm doing Sleeping Beauty, which I've done before at Llandudno, but it will be a completely different script. There won't be a word of it the same as before. So it's a learning curve for me. It's every year they make you work for your money now. I'm not decorating dressing rooms now. I'm sitting there going, oh God, what is this line? Yeah.
It must have been very weird then, going from sort of a safe Cinderella script straight through to different pantomimes.
Yeah, it is. They're absolutely, totally right. You start to doubt yourself. I also, as you get older, you start to doubt your ability to remember things. So what I do now, my safety blanket is I learn it before I arrive in the rehearsal room. Now, sometimes you can actually go downhill from there. On day one, you're absolutely word perfect, and everybody's going, smarty pants. And the next thing, you start to fall apart because things change, of course, in rehearsals. So it's not always wise, but for me, I really, really like to get a firm grip on it before I go into the rehearsal room, because that's the way we were taught. Paul Elliott would make you go out there, full belt, do the whole thing in the rehearsal room. You never ever marked it. That was not happening with Paul. So it's something I can't help doing. I go out there and I do it full belt, and yeah, it is a learning curve.
How long then does it take you to actually get hold of the script before a performance? Actually nail the actual remembering of your lines.
Last year we got the script late. Probably didn't get the script till November, maybe end of October, November, and then usually I'm out with the Panto Road show. So I'll tell you what's important to me. Because I am, when all's said and done, I am a costumic dame. I am a dame that cannot even consider entering in the same costume twice. I couldn't do it. It's just not in my... And this has caused me a lot of grief, a lot of money, and a lot of effort, but I just can't do it. So even if I bob off and bob on again, I'm still going to change. And I think the record was Sleeping Beauty at Llandudno 6 years ago. I think I did 16 changes, but it's part and parcel of me. maybe you think, oh, I'm not funny, so at least if I wear a funny costume, they might laugh at me. You know, how long have I been doing this? And I still doubt myself. You don't. It's our business. It's what we do. We never. If you're too confident and too cocky, then you know pride comes before a fall. So, yeah, many costume changes, and that's what I want to know first. I'm not interested in the script. What I want to know is what costumes am I bringing, and at this moment in time, I am moving costume stores, which is going to involve, there are 2 of us, but it's going to involve 6 rails, 6 cardboard skips, probably 8 large objects that we wear, like, you know, jar of Marmite and a tin of beans and a Christmas pudding. I need to know in the summer what it is that I'm going to be wearing roughly, what I need to add to it, what I might need to get made. I'm still having costumes made every year since 1981. I'm having costumes made and wigs maybe. So let me put it this way. Peter and I came into the business, again, we specialised, and I keep saying this over and over again, to do pantomime, to be typecast, to specialise. We knew, Peter and I knew, that as Ugly Sisters we might get a booking, but as Ugly Sisters with a good wardrobe of their own that saves the management money, we're more likely to get a booking. So on that premise, if we have really good costumes and spend a lot of money, we will always be booked. Well, it happened, it worked. Putting the money in that envelope at the end of every season, spending it, putting it back into the business, putting it back. I'm still doing that now. 28, 29, 30, 33, 37 years later, I am still ploughing money into it, because there's always somebody coming up behind you with a better wardrobe, with better art, you know, better wigs, so you've got to keep on top of the game. So that's my interest, is what am I wearing. Last year I was doing something I'd never done before. I had never ever done a Dick Whittington, ever. I had never played Felicity Fitzwarren, who it turns out is I think she must be, nobody mentioned it, but I assume she was an older woman or older person. So she ran the ship, so suddenly I have to have nautical costumes that I hadn't had before. So I got that sorted, and then I'm going to take it easy this year. I'm not going to do too many changes. Oh, there's that bit in the song where I don't do anything for 90 seconds. Do you mind if I bob off and come back on again? Oh, all right then. So we do it, and I come on with a full sailor costume and a ship on my head. It's like, why?
Is it an addiction, do you think?
Yes. It is. And also, tradition. I am so aware of traditions. To me, I believe that everybody who enters pantomime should know what went before them, who went before them, because it makes us what we are. And boring as that might sound, I mean, I've done pantomime. I've lectured on it for NODA, and I find it really important, and I just wish that somebody would say, I'll tell you what, drama schools, we're going to book people like me to go around and bore you with the history of pantomime. We'll try and keep it short, but we're going to tell you what went before, because you can't do something now in pantomime if you don't know what your history is, where you came from, what makes you do what you do. And that to me is hugely important. I really, it's I think the most important thing in the world. And okay, I can understand young people coming along and they don't know what these old people are, that, you know, people like me, old people doing down. Yeah, but take the time to learn. It's your craft, it's what you do for a living, it's your background you need to look up. Who came before me? Who were the dames of the past who made me do? Why do we do a strip? Why do I do a strip the way I do a strip? I do it because Terry Scott did it that way. That's why I do a strip. We're always playing homage to those who came, or is it homage? I should give that woman 30 quid back. Homage to those people who came before, because they made us. And I think that's probably why I set up the itsbehindyu.com website. It's to make people take a look at the history and what went before. I love the diary and all the things that like what's happening now, but let's take a look at the past.
Well, you've actually pinched one of my questions from me. I was going to move on to the It's Behind You website, possibly the Bible, as people refer to it as, in the pantomime world. If you want to find anything out, and if people are listening to this and they have never been, It's Behind You. Fabulous website, and the diary is just
my blog,
the go-to. Just
now the two diaries. You see, here we have the diary of what shows are on,
and your diary,
and my blog diary, which is, I wish I'd never started it. I started it in an era before Twitter, probably before Facebook. It is a written diary, and the discipline involved in it means that at some point when you've done 2 shows, you've gone out, you've had a lovely time in the pub, there's that lovely new gin, the one, the tankery one with the orange, and then you get back to the hotel and you go, right, okay, and you write the blog. It is a discipline, because nowadays people tweet a couple of words, and I find myself, last year I was at Plymouth, I could remember about 1 o'clock in the morning typing away thinking, what if nobody ever reads this? What if I'm just writing it for myself when I could be in the pub? But you do. So yeah, my 2 diaries are... I just knocked your mic then. Our 2 diaries are very important. Simon Curtis is the other half of itsbehindyu.com. Simon works for Equity. And Simon is an amazing technical person who does all the technical wizardry. He puts that diary together. It's astonishing. He came up with the idea of a message board, which I hadn't thought about. He said to me recently, you have to go on Twitter, and I just looked blankly, and I still don't understand it, but Simon's the one who's dragging itsbehindyu.com, dragging it into the 21st century.
What actually made you want to start it then?
Do you know what made me... Do you know... Can I tell you?
Please.
Right, this is easy. Is it coming... When did I start it? I think it's been going about 19 years or something, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so say 19 years ago, I was scared of computers anyway, and I always thought I'd start World War III if I touched something, the wrong button. But anyway, I remember looking up pantomime. I wanted to know something about pantomime, and I put in something about pantomime, and all that came up was an amateur company and their pictures of their panto, and I thought, no, pantomime, I will put in dames, there we go, and then I got a German website that made my eyes water, I can tell you. So right, so it was looking through and suddenly thinking, there's nothing here, there is zero. And I think it coincided at the same time that Peter Latham wrote It's Behind You, the book, and I supplied a lot of the archive and the pictures for it, and I just thought it's about time somebody put something on the internet that is about... Now I know people probably don't look at the bits I put on about the past. I don't care.
Yes, we do.
Oh well, there we are, they're there if you want. I've just finished doing a lovely item that's been sent to me, and I've been publishing it. It's Keith Simmons, it's his 50th year in pantomime, so right, here we go, spotlight on Keith Simmons. If you want to, there it is. And I think, let's blow our trumpets. Let's show people that we are actually a genre. There we are, see? Another 30 quid to that woman.
You must have seen some changes over the years then, both in styles, fashion,
Yes,
as well, and Panto going in and out of fashion.
Yes. And also, of course, okay, I've always said this, and it's the dreary thing you say in press calls, but there we go, is that pantomime has survived because it has changed, it has evolved. If it didn't evolve, it would not exist. So if you say, ooh, pantomime is like the good old days, my grandma used to love watching the good old days on telly, City Variety Leeds, oh, isn't it lovely? It never evolved. And people got older and they no longer remembered Mari Lloyd and Dan Leno. And pantomime has always embraced the new and the novel. So people might get shirty about, I can remember them saying, oh, Frank Bruno's doing panto, ooh. I mean, imagine, a boxer doing panto. No, in the 1880s, the Victorians had a boxer who not just did panto, but he invited people up from the audience and used to smack them, knock them out. I mean, I've worked 2 fabulous seasons with Ashley Butler, with Pudsey, and then with Sully. It's an art that I go to Crufts every year, and I go to the agility championships that Ashley does. She has brought a skill and a talent that is bewildering. It's not a dog act. It is a proper, researched, really, really rehearsed. It's an art form. So, okay, I've worked with people with performing doves that are multicoloured doves, Annalou and Maria, the doves fly. Norman Barrett is performing budgies. We've always embraced something that is novel and new, and we're still doing it today. I don't know what the current thing is. I'd say probably Britain's Got Talent is the current trend. So if you said to me, what's the trend for 2019, I'd say it's Britain's Got Talent. They're the people who are bobbing up on all the posters. But I've gone through Australians. I remember the very first one. A man called John Farrow was bringing them into the country, and I think the very first, I'm going to say Anne Charleston was the second. The very first was Guy Pearce, who's now a Hollywood star. He was brought in and did Panto somewhere like Crew, or I think it was Crew. Peter and Elaine came over from Neighbours, and before you know it, the Australian avalanche happened, and I went through all of that, and I made one of my biggest mates, Ray Ma, who is Alf in Home and Away. We had such fun doing that panto. That was a craze. I've been through gladiators, I've been through rhinos and Scorpios, and there's a song here, isn't it? I'm still here. There are different ways of bringing the new and the novel. Oh, let's not forget, the characters. We had Pantos and Mr. Blobby. How many times have I received a ticket to the ball from Postman Pat, and his cat and his car. It's Rory the Tiger. Never off, Rory. Like that we are, big friends. It's the new and the novel. And that is why Panto exists today, is that every single year, people like Michael Harrison they're not just putting on pantomimes, they are working out what is the trend, what is the thing that people want to book tickets for. I'm going to give it to them. And he does.
Do you get to see many pantos?
Do I get more money, Michael? I just gave you a plug. Sorry? Do I see many?
13 amp. There you go.
Yes, amp. Okay. Do I see many pantos?
Do you see many pantos?
No. Well, in the old days, definitely not, because we all did 8 to 10 weekers. That's what I did. We did pantos for 8. There's one on the wall there. That one there goes on forever. But nowadays the pantos are much, much shorter, and that's another trend. That's new to me, because the average panto today is probably 4 weeks. But it's a case of get in there, get it filled, get your audience in, get your money, and off you go, because there's no sense in hanging about. I've forgotten what the question was.
Seeing other pantos.
Yeah, so as a consequence, yes, I'm lucky now. Like, recently I've been doing 4-weekers, or, this one I'm doing at Llandudno. It's a 3-week panto. It's my second home. It is my love. I love Llandudno. And it's a 3-week panto, which means at the end of it all, I can then get great pleasure in going to see the long ones. I can go and see Birmingham, I can go and see other pantos around the country that are still running. So that's a joy.
Anybody in particular that you make a beeline for to go and see?
Oh gosh. Alive,
yes.
Alive, yes. Because in the old days I used to make beelines all over the country
Well, of course,
to see the
we'll
greats.
mention the ones there, the greats.
Oh my goodness! You want right? So I can remember going to the Alex in Birmingham and going to the Theatre Royal in Nottingham, and no matter where I was, I would get on the train. I'd go and see John Inman in Mother Goose. That was a must. That had to be done. I would go and see Les Dawson. That had to be seen, a must. Those kind of Stanley Baxter. You walk the earth to go and see those pantomimes. So today, I go and see my mates. That's the odd thing about it. I'm not really going to see the Pantomime Stars. I'm actually kind of going to see my mates, so it's always a bit of a party. I did like 8 years with Brian Connolly, so when you go to see Brian's panto, it's just fun time. Last year, I before I started rehearsals, popped in, saw Leslie Joseph. We had a lovely time. I then, you go to the hotel before rehearsals, and who are you with? The Crankies. Can you imagine anything better than when you've finished rehearsing for a day, you get back to the hotel, and who's sitting there with a bottle of wine but Jeanette and Ian? You are in heaven, because you're just going to have such a giggle. And ultimately, I think it was Nick Thomas said that the other day. He was saying something about why would you do it if it wasn't fun, if it wasn't a giggle? And it's true. Why would I parade myself up and down 16 costumes twice a day if you didn't enjoy it? God, I can't. No, you wouldn't do it.
Anything about business you don't like?
Anything about business I don't like? Serious mode here now. I don't like the sense of negativity that I feel has come onto since as social media has blossomed. I think, and this is generally in all things really, there's a lot of negativity that goes on. People are quite fond of putting down things. That's to me, it's the antithesis. Another 30 quid. The antithesis of the antithesis of pantomime. Pantomime is not negative. If there's one thing that we do on stage in pantomime, and it's something that I honestly believe you can't train anyone to do, you could probably learn by watching. What we do is we sell energy. And so to be a successful pantomime artist, you are selling energy. You must always go on that stage making it sound like it's the first time you've ever said that line. You must be so delighted when the comic produces his prop, and you are astounded when Aladdin tells you that he's now the prince. It's got to be big, because that's what panto is. That's what the word means. The whole word means big. For the listeners out there, pantomime from to mime the whole thing. The Greek chap stood at the front and sort of basically did a Tony Hart signing thing of the whole pantomime. It was big. so that if you were sitting too far back and you couldn't see the actors, at least you could see what he's doing. We make it big, we make it sparky, we make it alive. That's what we're paid for. What really, I nearly said a naughty word then, what really makes me unhappy is people walking through shows. That makes me unhappy. I'm prepared to give 100% energy, and I pay for it because I have a nap in between shows. I go out like a light. I'm gone for an hour. Woof. I could never do 3 a day. I'm awfully sorry. Do you know what I mean? That's not possible. So you give that energy. I might have no talent, but I've got energy. Look at me, I'm crackling. I cannot bear people who walk through performances, and especially ones who say, it's only a matinee, it's only kids. I'm sorry, that child will suss you out so fast, because kids, I know this from 28 years of playing sister, kids are ahead of the game, they're ahead of you. They know what you're going to say before they're with you, because they're living it. How dare you not give them the respect that they deserve? Okay, maybe their parents paid, they didn't pay, but that really doesn't matter. To walk through a show, to me, is, you might as well just go home. Just don't do it. Don't waste your time. Give it to somebody else who can do it. End of lecture.
Very well said. Completely agree. I've been sitting there in performances watching people, and you can see that if they had a watch on, they'd be looking at it.
Yeah, it's disgraceful. I do, to anybody who doesn't understand giving an energised performance, go and see Brian Connolly. Just go and see Brian and see why it is that he's top of his game and why his audience is in the palm of his hands. Because he's electric. He's giving it. And it's an electricity that goes out there, and everybody in that audience thinks Brian's working for them. It's a magic. It's you can't learn it.
I've had a lot of people say to me that you do get difficult audiences sometimes, especially the old Boxing Day audience. Have you ever found that?
No, I was trying to think of a long word there that gets me 30 quid. It's a misnomer. She's probably a drag act up in...
Misnomer.
Misnomer. She's been up in Carlisle's and a misnomer. Yeah. What was the question?
Audiences, when they're not quite feeling it.
No, it's no. I'll tell you why an audience feels different. When I go out there, and usually I'm like this year I was with Andy Ford, top pro comic obviously, and you're on the same wavelength, and I'd go out before Andy and he could tell how they were by their reaction to me. I could tell by their reaction to me. I could come off and go, they're, zingy, they are zinging, and things like that. It's not the audience that's different or naff or Boxing Day or they've had too much. It's the demographic between adult and child. So when you go out in a matinee, there are more children possibly than adults. You will get a different reaction. When you go out in the evening, there are more adults than children, and you get a different reaction. Comics react to the reaction from the adults, and they do longer in an evening and shorter in a matinee. If you're very clever, you keep some material up your sleeve that caters for both. So if your audience is predominantly, you might have an audience that's entirely junior schools. We do at Llandudno, we get 8 houses of just fabulous. I even got John Evans and I, when we were there, we used to sneak out to the back of the auditorium, during the before the show started, because there's a fabulous usherette there who conducts 2,000 children in singing the house music that's playing. It's brilliant. He points at them, that section do it, that section do it. It's like the Albert Hall comes to life. John and I used to go, yeah, that's the energy we need. feed us.
They're
Off we
warming
go.
you up, yeah.
Yeah, and they were warming us up on the tannoy. That audience will be different. You have a different approach. You have perhaps different gags even. I certainly will in Llandudno. I will have a different opening for just the school's matinees than I will for the evening with a mix of. It's a mix of mums, dads, pensioners. That's why audiences are different. The audiences do not come into a panto to be unimpressed. It's just the breakdown. You might have too many preschool children. You might have too many parties that are, they've travelled a long way. No, it's up to us. We can't blame the audience.
Different areas then where you've travelled, because you've been around in the nicest way quite a bit.
I have been, yes, I have.
Any particular audiences that you really warmed to?
Oh, good. That's better than saying, who did you not like?
Oh no.
Where did I walk? Do you know? I'll tell you what. If Peter was here now, and you asked us both that question, we would both, because we used to end each other's sentences, we'd both say Bournemouth. Isn't it funny?
Pavilion.
Yeah. I can't describe it. I think it's a high ratio of pensioner. And Peter and I used to really spark when you get all the pensioners in and the old girls who make that lovely whooping noise, and they're a variety type audience. Bournemouth, yeah, there was something special about that theatre. It was also special because it used to smell of bacon.
Did it?
Yeah, because backstage was Kath's kitchen. When you got in the say you got in the theatre about 12 o'clock or something, I can remember carefully going past the Shetlands, who were, quite busy doing their business. And the next thing that hit you after the Shetlands was the smell of bacon. And one of the dressing rooms was Kath's kitchen, and she would literally be cooking food right the way through and it was just sheer delight. Toast and bacon. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, Bournemouth it had a special magic. It was also Paul Elliott's hometown, and I think he was very proud. And when we did pantomime there were so many lovely things that happened. You went to see a lady, and I'm so embarrassed now that I can't remember her name. It will come back to me, and her friend was Mrs. What to say? No, Battersby. Somebody out there will know who I'm talking about. She was the vicar's widow, and in his will, the vicar, who'd been the chaplain of the theatre, left enough money for turns to go and have tea with Mrs. name of lady of a Friday. So if it wasn't a matinee day, because in those days we didn't always do twice daily, because you did like 7-8 weeks, you would literally go in Bournemouth to meet Mrs. York Batley, Mrs. York Batley, that's her name, and her friend Maud. And you would go there, and you would if you go there in a play in the summer, you play croquet on the lawn. If it was the winter, you play a card game apparently called Oh Hell, which, if you're the widow of a vicar, must be terribly racy. And she would make an entrance on a stanner, just absolutely beautifully timed. And she would end the tea session with telling you about a picture called the Sword and the Something, which she ended up doing on Blue Peter. You'd only have to be with her and George. George was a little bit masculine, George. Mrs. York Batley was very... And you'd have to be about 5 minutes, and you'd think, do you know, I can't... You really remind me of... And then I went there with Patrick Fife, Dame Hilda Brackett, who your viewers, listeners will hopefully remember. The genius that was George Logan and Patrick Fife, they at some point had gone for tea with Mrs. York Batley and went, woohoo, this is it. And when I went with Patrick, I realised that Dame Hilda was so clever And Evadne was so clever because they were real. And yes, Mrs. York Batley was Dame Hilda. So that's another magic about Bournemouth. It was lovely. I just adored it. The only thing I could live without was that we had a bungalow and a squirrel died under the floorboards. It wasn't nice.
Bring it right back.
Yeah. And it's a long season. That's where I first found the product called Nutridol. Nutridol balls.
Have you ever worked out then how many theatres you've actually played in over the years?
When I've just done a thing for I've got a press call next week in Llandudno, and they asked me to, will you rejig your, so you change the numbers. Nigel is doing his 46th pantomime, and it is his 5th time at Llandudno, all that thing. Yeah, did all that. I changed. Most of the theatres have got the word twice written after them. Scotland, we were privileged to do Aberdeen twice, Edinburgh, and I haven't played the famous Glasgow theatres because the Empire's no longer there. I've done all the theatres in Glasgow, the old ones, in plays, but not in Panto. I don't think I would. Glasgow is a speciality. It's for the amazing Scottish comedians that reign supreme there. So yeah.
Is there anywhere on your list that you'd like to play?
Ooh, that I haven't played that I'd like to play. I'll tell you what I'd like to do. It's odd really, but I'd like to... No, it isn't odd. It's just... I've played it twice. I would like to go back to Cardiff New Theatre, and I'll tell you where I really have never played. Swansea Grand. My home theatre, the one where I started off as a kid watching the rest. I've never played it in pantomime. I've done it in plays, but I've never done it in a pantomime. So if you're listening, Kevin Johns,
watch out.
Watch out for the piano wire on the stairs, love.
What about over the years then, with the cast that you've worked with? Have there been any particular favourites?
Yeah. But I wouldn't like to say who they are. I've got favourites. I have got favourites, yeah. Yeah, and it's singling out people is tricky because it's like when you do a speech in a wedding and you forget people, the BAFTAs, and you go, oh, I've forgotten to say the producer. No, I've been...
What about late people then? Late people that you've really loved working with?
Not people that didn't turn up or something. Oh, I see what you mean. I have worked with a few of those, I can tell you. Standing there in a cottage waiting for the comic to turn up, and he ain't there. Thinking, I'm not going to climb this beanstalk on my own. Late people, yes, many. I've got actually because I knew you were coming. I wrote.
You bake me a cake.
Yeah, I wrote a list of. I thought you might ask me that, so I don't forget them. I've got a list of my favourite dames. Okay. And they are Freddie Lees, who I mentioned, Norman Evans, Les Dawson, John Inman, Stanley Baxter, Roy Barraclough, Gary Wilmot, and Reg Dixon. So of them all, I think Stanley's still going. He's 90. And Gary, of course, is certainly still going because he's at the Palladium. Those are my favourite games. And... I don't know what the connection is with all of them, but certainly the word warmth is quite definitely the key word to these people. If you say what have they all got in common apart from talent, it's warmth. And a dame can be warm.
You feel like you could have a couple of them.
Absolutely. Somebody's mum. I watched Gary last year and I thought, yeah.
His patter songs are incredible, aren't they?
I mean, I've done with Gary. I've done Cinderella with him as Buttons, and then I was there at the very beginning. Bless him, you'll remember it. I came in to assist with his makeup when he did his first photo shoot as Dame, and I can remember this. He said, "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" And I looked in the mirror and I went, Rusty Lee. It's there's a certain there's a great warmth that comes out of Gary, and it's the same with all these people. Some of them I was lucky to meet. Roy Barraclough, the most gorgeous, delightful, lovely man in the universe. It's warmth. And then sisters, it was interesting because I was looking at sisters. My list of sisters is classic. It's John Inman and Barry Howard. And a lot of people listening will not really connect the two. They'll think John Inman did Are You Being Served, Barry Howard did Heidi High. But they were a double act. They were sisters, and they were like Peter and me. They were actors known. When Peter and I started, we knew that there were people around like John Inman and Barry Howard, Burden and Moran, lovely Charles Burden, who now does Dame. He and Morris were a double act that brought everything with them, including a lot of dogs, actually, because they did a magic act in the middle of the ballroom. So they put a black poodle into the washing machine and bring out a white poodle, and then a little dog would go into the box and a big dog, So, Burnham Moran, Brian Godfrey, the gorgeous, lovely late Brian Godfrey, and David Morton, Terry Scott and Hugh Lloyd, or Terry Scott and Julian Orchard, because they both did it beautifully. And let's not forget Danny LaRue and Alan Haynes. People don't remember Alan Haynes. And Alan was the star, and he was the one who got Danny to play sister with him. And afterwards, I think it's rather lovely that Danny never forgot. And when Danny became a big star, he would have Alan Haynes in his pantomime, playing a part somewhere. It was something that was never forgotten. So those are my icons.
They were your go-to people, and you still take little parts off. You do that as a nod.
Yeah, and you cannot talk about Dan without. I was at a theatre a couple of weeks ago, and met a chap, and within minutes we're exchanging Danny anecdotes, because to be in the presence of Danny LaRue is to collect his wonderful anecdotes. Fabulous. My favourite, I think, is, God bless him, he was having trouble seeing, and bless him, he was a little bit poorly, and he came to see the panto we did at Southampton with Brian Connolly, and Brian got the audience to, he said, we got big star in the audience, very big star, Danny LaRue, spotlight, lovely, great. Okay. And we were in the dressing room, and there was a knock on the door, knock, and I opened the door, and there's Dan there, and he said, I'm sure you were both marvellous, but I couldn't see. Oh. Thanks, Dan. Oh. He went, yes, there's the cataracts. I can't. Yes, this is yeah. You're not going to say to two fellas in drag, you're brilliant. You're not going to do that. And he came in, and we were off. The champagne bottle was open, and off we went. And that night was crazy because people kept calling in, and I can remember lovely Peter Todd, the theatre manager of Birmingham Theatre. He came in, and for some strange reason Jim Davidson came in. He wasn't anything to do with it, and suddenly we suddenly discovered that you had a room full of people with Dan at the centre, and he thought, yes, that is why you're a very big star. And that is why Dan had two dressing rooms. Every time he played pantomime, he had one dressing room to change in and one to entertain in. And because that was the man. But I loved that, Anna. That was one of my favourites. I'm sure you were marvellous, but I couldn't see.
A wit.
Oh, brilliant.
An absolute wit. Where did the hoarding come from? Because
I beg your pardon.
Would you mind me...
Hoarding?
Well, hoarding...
hoarding! I see.
Hoarding... in the nicest possible way. You allowed me into your home, and it is better stocked than some museums.
I have started shipping stuff off to the V&A. I'm currently there in a case. I believe you're going there this week. Are you going there this week?
I might be, yes.
You might be. Well, if you are going there,
I'll take some boxes.
Yes, Peter and I are in a case in the theatre section in our ball gowns. So I donated those to the V&A, and I thought it was going to be a short season, but I think we're coming up to about, they might be on the second year now. So our ball gowns are there, and next to us is Dan, and Dan is his costume is it was originally the Pool of Beauty from Plymouth, from Mother Goose, but it's been adapted by Annie. It's now Aladdin. So there's Peter and me in our ball gowns, there's Dan, and then there's Clive Rowe in two of his costumes, and I'm chuffed. I'm absolutely chuffed.
When you were a child then, did you used to collect all the
no, I don't. I know
posters and stuff?
the hoarding, as you see. I mean, how many? I've just counted. There's 20 filing cabinets here.
Yes.
They are full of. There's that one's called Panto Ancient, Panto Modern. Ancient goes up to about about 1970. I call Ancient, so it starts off around 1830, and then Modern is every time, but there's a lot of it, and I collect photographs, I collect memorabilia, I collect letters. The cabinet behind you is the cabinet of curiosities. That is stuffed full of weird pantomime items. Everything from panto badges,
the beer mats
that were important. Beer mat, because it's Morecambe and Wise were the presidents of the British Beer Mat Association, I think, or whatever it was called, and so they would have their shows advertised on beer mats. There's Wishy Washy soap. There's a doll, one of the very earliest off sales, the little doll on the top is from Jack and Jill, and that's an Emil Littler off sale around about 28, maybe 1928, 29. It's nestling next to an LP with Frank Ifield in the Palladium. There are snap cards from Pantomime from the 1920s. There's a little mini cine viewer from about 1912. There's and a tea set that I bought a couple of weeks ago, as if I didn't have the room, but I've squeezed it in. That's a pantomime themed tea set by Wedgwood for a child's plaything. Now, the fact that it not just survived from the 1920s intact, every single piece, but if you look above you, there's the original box.
Wow.
Poor children, they probably got to look at it once. That's it.
That's it. Put it away.
Put it
Thank
away.
goodness.
Yes, somebody will buy it on eBay in 60 years' time. So yeah, the hoarding is it's out of control.
So costumes, you don't really like to get rid of them either?
No. Well, yes, but I mean, the thing is, they've got to work. They're like me. They might be old and falling apart, but they've still got to work.
Earn their hanger, as I've heard the expression is.
They're what?
They earn their hanger.
Oh, they do earn their hanger, yeah, they really do. They have to. I mean, I've got, like, this year I'm playing the Queen in Sleeping Beauty, and I said to Jonathan Carley on the phone, I said, am I the nurse or the Queen? He said, I think, well, you're the Queen. I said, good, because I can wear all the glitzy stuff that I don't normally wear in Panto, so out comes all the glitzy stuff, and as you can see, actual reveal behind this curtain, there we are. Ooh!
How very theatrical of you.
A crown.
Wow.
So there's a couple of crowns that I'm working on now. That's half a crown, actually, that one. So, yeah, you just get to... So I've got a collection of glitzy costumes this year. The one I'm taking for my press call is my very, very favourite. It is one of Danny's, and I bought it in the auction. And... there were so many things at the auction, and a lot of them went to the V&A. But this costume caught my eye because I'd seen a picture of it. I have a friend called Patricia Michael, who is a fabulous principal boy back in the 70s. She then went to America, where she married the gentleman who was the chief booker for Radio City Music Hall. So she's in charge of the Rockettes, I always like to think. And there was a picture of Pat Michael and Danny, and Danny's in a bustled dress. And the whole pantomime was around. It was a Terry Parsons design. I would say it was Regency. But Danny's beautiful gold dress with a bustle. And the gag is the bustle comes away and wanders off stage independently of you. Poor stagehand. I look around as soon as I get to the theatre. I go, who's short? Who's not claustrophobic? Hello, young man. I've got an interesting proposition. Have you ever been a bustle? And so Danny's dress. So I'm not taking the bustle with me to the press corps because it's too heavy, but I am taking the gorgeous Terry Parsons Danny frock with all the Swarovski crystal on it. That's going up there, and it's just another piece of history, knowing who came before you, what they did. The cushions you're sitting on, have you admired them? What about the green one?
Green one, wow.
Now,
oh my goodness.
These cushions here were some fabric that were found in an old warehouse, and they're printed in the 1950s. I'm not sure whether they were meant to be curtains or something, but they're theatres. So I salvaged them and got somebody to turn them into cushions for me, and if you look at those theatres, there's hardly any of them exist anymore. It's amazing, isn't it? You've got obviously the Globe, the Hippodrome is now a nightclub. You've got the Irving Theatre. Now, the Irving Theatre was where Danny LaRue first started in Leicester Square, doing small bits. There's the Savoy, of course, which has currently got Brian Conley in it. Then you've got the Finsbury Park Empire. That's no more. The London Casino. Do you know what that is?
No.
No, it's the Prince Edward. So that was the home of pantomime, the casino. Now it's the Prince Edward. So this bit of history here, this bit of fabric has made up a couple of cushions. Now, you can look at them as cushions, or you can go, oh my god, the history that's in this. Maybe I should have been a teacher.
You still are educating people though with your talks.
No, they see me and they go, that taught me a lesson.
Oh. Here's a question for you then. Why do you think it is a British institution, pantomime, and not really...
Easy peasy. Yeah, we are hoarders. We, the British, are hoarders. So, way back in those boring days before Facebook and before people stared at screens, in the 18th century, these people used to come along and do little entertainments on the village green or something, or, do it on the top of a cart or something, and you'd have your French people come over and do their little bits of commedia dell'arte, which were amusing. You didn't need a language to follow it. There was a funny old man, there was a young person that was supposed to be employed by the miserable old man who cheated him and tricked him. He fell in love with the young girl who was usually the miserable old man's daughter, and there was a clown. It's not difficult to see that. Oh right, I like that. Then we had the Italians came over. They did their night scenes and all that, and the British thought, well, I like that, but it's a bit deep, that one. There's too much singing in there. So what they did was they plucked all the bits they liked from the French and from the Italians, and they sort of put it together to make a show. But it took somebody in the mid-Victorian era to go, we need a skeleton for our structure, a nursery rhyme or a fairy tale. And that's why we've got pantomime. So somebody had the clever idea to take these foreign entertainments, but to meld them into a fairy story. And that is what we've got today. There's no difference. Good must always win. Evil gets its comeuppance. There is still a cheeky young lad who's in love with a young girl. There's usually a boss who bosses the cheeky man about. We still have a clown, but it's no longer Grimaldi. It's now the clown has turned into the dame. That ridiculous makeup and the silly, outrageous costume, that's the dame. The young man is the comic now. That's why we've got it. We just literally pinched. And when we got to the 1870s, Augustus Harris at the Drury Lane hit on the jackpot, which we still have today. It was mainly a sort of middle and upper class entertainment, and it was awfully long. It must have been about 4 hours then. He decided to do something very dramatic and bring in the rather common music hall stars. people from music hall and variety that were popular with the working classes and put them into pantomime, suddenly you've doubled your audience. And suddenly the Dane really comes into his own, because they've got a lot of male comics and they don't quite know what to do with them. They're probably in their 40s and 50s. I know, let's make them the silly lady, because people love them anyway, so to see him in a frock, that's why we have Panto.
Why don't Americans, do you find?
They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand it. It's been tried. 3 of my scripts, I've had my scripts done in Connecticut, but they had to be really adapted into more fairy story than anything. You sort of de-pantoed them. They just don't get it. We have a different sense of humour. And don't forget, the Americans don't understand sarcasm.
And a lot of it is sarcasm.
Yeah,
as
of course
well.
it is.
Especially from...
My Dave's very,
Oh.
Yeah, she's very knowing. They just don't get it. They like the spectacle, but they don't get it. It works well where there are expats. It works in Australia, obviously. It works in Canada. And there were tours that went out to New Zealand and places. Windsor Davis used to tell me about doing Panto in New Zealand. It was going down a bomb. It was absolutely brilliant.
Do you think it's something that might change in time?
I'd like to say no, but remember I said pantomime evolves and it changes. I don't know. I can't see what it will evolve into. It's become very technical now. In the old days when we did a tech, in the very beginnings when you only had the 3 stand mics, your tech was basically tell the follow spot operator what side you're coming on from, and if the mic is a riser, I'm going to be on the side or the middle. That was the tech. Nowadays it's hugely technical. The kudos pantomimes are basically West End musicals with all the product from a West End musical that would normally be put on with about 7 or 8 weeks rehearsal. They're put on in 10 days. That is because kudos employ experts. These experts come in, the sound guy is the top of his field, the lighting guy is the top of his field. Hopefully the actors are capable of just giving the top of their field. Before you know it, in 10 days you've got a show worthy of the West End. But what does the future hold? I don't know. I believe that scenery will vanish. I think we will be completely in a world of clever hologram stroke projection, something like that. Scenery won't be. You won't have cloths coming in and out. That's quite old-fashioned now. That people prefer almost a televisual wipe. They don't want... The comic's job was, when the cloth banged in and they're changing the scenery behind him, he and 2 others would do the Tree of Truth, the Busy Bee, the Paper in the Parlour, while they change the set. That's not necessary anymore. We can actually change sets so much faster and quicker. We don't need front cloths.
Is there anything about pantomime that you don't enjoy doing, such as slosh scenes or
as a dame, I wouldn't do a slosh scene because I've got a face on, and I'd have a face on if I did a slosh scene. I tell you, because I've got a wig. No, you don't want that. I've done the Busy Bee, which is not my favourite gag, where you have to spit. You think, is this really giving the right idea? But I did it in the 70s, and I did it in the 90s, and I did it about 8 years ago. You just rely on the comic to be very kind and not actually spray it in your face, because you've got the eyelashes, all the makeup. It takes too long. It's great for the comic who does it. Do you know, hardly anybody other than dames wears makeup anymore. It's surprising. You look at the stage and you look at your principal boys, you look at your comics, they're not wearing makeup. A smudge of maybe a tiny bit of eyeliner, I don't know, but no. It's that sort of disappeared. So we are the ones who spend 40 minutes putting it all on, so I'm not going to stand there and get a custard pie in it.
Has that happened before, though?
No, and it won't.
Let's hope there's no mischievous comments listening.
No, you can believe me. They wouldn't dare.
Well, it comes to my final question
Right.
for you. Your dream Panto cast. Now, you have been doing your homework.
I have.
And you have a confession to make as well to our listeners that you've chosen two
Pantos.
Pantos.
Instead of doing an amalgam panto, I've done a Cinderella and an Aladdin. And I had to think long and hard on this.
Well, as it's you,
Yeah,
and because of all the joy you've given with your blog
thank you.
and your fabulous website,
And the tenor I just slipped you.
thank you. It's your gift back is to allow you two pantomimes.
Okay, so this is a history lesson, I'm afraid, because there's hardly anybody. Well, there's a few. Right, okay, Cinderella. My Cinderella, boys and girls, has got a baroness, and that baroness is Stanley Baxter. The baroness was mostly done in Scotland in those pantos. They always had a baroness. It didn't really transfer to England, but to me, I would have Stanley Baxter as the baroness. The Ugly Sisters, I'm going to ask if it could be Peter and me,
Of course.
because if it's a dream panto, I'd like to be in it. But just in case you said no, standing by is John Inman and Barry Howard. We both started off going to the same wig person, to Kevin and Jerry. John Inman was having ships put on his head, and Barry was having a clock put on his head, and up until last year when Kevin and Jerry retired, my wigs were still being made by Kevin and Jerry, so that's not bad, is it? They have given nigh on, oh gracious, I can't imagine, well, since the late 70s they've been making wigs. So right, anyway, that's the sisters. Now, my fairy godmother, no question, it is Dame Hilda Brackett, it is Patrick Fife. I did 2 with Patrick, or 3. George will remember them because he sat in the box and watched with Russell Grant, if I remember rightly, making comments about the frock. That's a nice frock. Isn't that good, that frock? Yeah, we're working here. Patrick was so magic, and I'm not kidding about this. Peter and I, instead of, when we've torn the tickets, you go and switch the kettle on. We used to, feed the company, get the mince pies out for everybody. No, we would literally get our dressing gowns on, sit in the wings and watch Dame Hilda doing the knocking on the door, Cinderella, it's me. It's just genius. There's no other word for it. He came in at the last minute. It was supposed to be Carmen Silvera. Carmen Silvera was booked for the Palladium, so they released her from a contract. Very late notice. They asked just Dame Hilda. They only wanted one. Just Dame Hilda if she would do Panto, or he would do Panto, and Patrick said yes, but as long as I can write it myself. At that stage they just went, whatever, anything you like, do it. And he did. And he not only just wrote it every night, he also changed it every night. But it always came back to the right place for Cheryl Taylor as Cinderella to be able to respond to him. And it was magic. It was magic being created in front of your very eyes. That was Act 1. In Act 2, I like to think of myself as pretty hardened about it all, but he would come on and say, "Are you happy, my dear? You've met the prince, it's all worked out fine." And in rehearsals he said to us, "And I'm going to sing The Night is Young by Sigmund Romberg." And we went, "You are? The Night is Young by Sigmund Romberg." You know, that beautiful 1930s operetta. And we're thinking, uh-oh, this is going to go down well with the kids. Do you know, because it was real, and Dame Hilda is a real person, he would do this operatic number. It's so good, I'm possibly thinking, when I snuff it, it's one I'd like to have at my funeral, sung by him. It was absolutely magic. To bring that pathos into a pantomime, to see that some of the audience would basically go, "Oh my God," and to see the talent, yes. So I think I probably said, that's the one, that is it. Cinderella, Lindsay de Paul, no longer with us, but she would be my ideal Cinderella. Buttons would be Bob Monkhouse, one of the loveliest men you could ever wish to meet, and talented. Yeah, that's my Buttons. My Baron, for the same reasons, that probably the most lovely man on the planet and the most talented, Windsor Davies. He was magic. He was magic to work with. He was magic to spend time with. At Bournemouth, another Bournemouth treat, we'd get a cab, Peter would cook, and we'd go back to the bungalow with Windsor Davis and with June Brown, and we'd have a little meal and the stories would start. And just magic. Just sheer magic. Two absolute pros. Windsor, definitely my Baron. Prince Charming Pat Kirkwood, allegedly the finest principal boy of her time. I have only seen footage of it, and yeah, she had everything that makes a boy a boy. And for my Dandini, Jan Hunt, the lovely, gorgeous Jan Hunt, who's I think, I don't know if I'm giving it away. Jan was 80 recently and went wing walking for charity on an aeroplane. The year before, she abseiled down the Spinnaker Tower. This woman is, in my eyes, if we believe that Pat Kirkwood's the era before, Jan is the principal boy of this age. She was stunning. I'm so lucky I did so many pantos with her. She's brilliant. My broker's men are Morecambe and Wise. Obviously, couldn't get better. And the speciality acts, I've got two. The Ganjou Brothers and Juanita. You have to go on YouTube, you have to look it up. It's called the Dresden Palace. And you might have seen it in old footage. They're dressed in 18th century gear, and the two gentlemen take Juanita and they basically throw her around the stage like a sack of potatoes.
Yes, I have.
Yeah?
Yes.
To the tune of the Blue Danube.
Yes.
It is it is the special act of all time. Please, listeners, go to YouTube and find it. The Ganjou Brothers and Juanita. And my other speciality act in Cinderella is Ashley Butler and Sully, because that is just an incredible act. And the joy of doing 2 seasons with Ashley and her brilliant dogs, yeah, absolutely brilliant. On to Aladdin, and this is actually real because I did see the first 2. My Aladdin has got to be Barbara Windsor. She was the finest Aladdin that ever there was. And the magic moment where little Aladdin, small but honest youth in the cave, at, I think it was the Alex in Birmingham, goes down the front, clutches the lamp to her capacious bosom and innocently says, "What do I do with it, boys and girls?" And as soon as they shout, "Rub it," the look on her face is total shock. It's absolute brilliant magic. Her timing, she is the lady is magic, and she's still continuing to be magic now. I did a radio programme a couple of years back. What a joy. An encyclopedic knowledge of Panto. Gorgeous lady. She is Aladdin. The Abanazar with her was Alfred Marks. Can't be beaten. He is the best Abanazar. My widow Twanky is Norman Evans. Over the Garden Wall. Again, listeners, go onto YouTube and just see Norman Evans, and then you'll go, but that's Les Dawson. That's who Les emulated when he did Sissy and Ada with Roy Barraclough. So that's that. My Wishy, I'm afraid I've got 2. Sorry, I can't split them up. Leslie Crowther and Brian Connolly. Maybe one does the matinee, one does the evening. My princess will surprise you, Jessie J. Now, you're thinking, there's a new name.
Yes.
There's somebody who's alive. What is this? Jessie J, I think, is brilliant. She's magic. Where we're sitting now, in my little town here, this is where she started. And she began in one of the dancing schools here and did pantos, and has become a brilliant, amazing star, and I think she'll be an amazing princess. So shy, her attendant would be Dilys Watling. So if you don't know Dilys, again, go on Google and have a look at Dilys Watling. The Chinese policeman, I can't think of anybody else. The Crankies, it's got to be Ian and Jeanette. My genie of the lamp is Simon Webb from Blue. Again, 2 fabulous seasons with him. He has got it. He's one of these people who gets panto, and one of these people who delivers energy 1,000 volts and amazing to see the energy. He is the genie I'd like to see. And again, 2 slaves of the ring. One would be Darcy Bustle. She'd be doing mostly an adagio dance, or Gillian Lynn, lovely Gillian Lynn, who they've just named a theatre after. Well, she did pantos. She started a career doing Puss in Boots. I'd like to see her as the slave of the ring. The Emperor would be Derek Griffiths. The Grand Vizier, Roy Barraclough. And my specialities, I got 3. Wilson, Keppel and Betty. Oh, the Sand Dance. If you don't know them, listeners, you're in for a treat. This is just, there's nothing like it. The other speciality you probably won't see on YouTube, it was Emerson and Jane. Now, today we have all these amazing effects and the twins do these brilliant things in pantomime, but when I was a kid, the speciality in Aladdin was Emerson and Jane and the UV flying carpet. And that sticks in my mind. And the last speciality is Curry's Waltzing Waters. No better way to reveal the cave than through Mr. Curry's enormous hydraulic water effects, which I've fortunately worked with twice. Okay, you get a bit wet, but they're fabulous. Those are my all-time greats.
And which theatre?
Birmingham Hippodrome, no question. The finest, apart from the Palladium, but that's a little busy at the moment. So yeah, Birmingham Hippodrome is the finest, I think, the finest pantomime venue outside of the Palladium.
Well, thank you so much for spending time speaking to us here at the Panto Podcast.
It's my pleasure. Did I do over 10 minutes?
A couple more.
Oh, okay.
We'll edit it.
Okay, yeah, put a few edits in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.